right after that, I ended up going out behind the bar and I poured beer for about 2.5 hours
Yeah,
for
it's
all the
awesome.
fans. And everybody kept coming back for more. Everybody truly enjoyed it. I think a few people tried to rib me that they didn't, but they were the ones who were coming back for more fucking points.
This is the Token CEO podcast. I'm Erika. It's Thursday, July 28th. I'm here with Mackenzie. This is the podcast from all over the place. Mackenzie, before we start, do you wear so much PLL because we get it for free or that because you like it?
Well, both now.
But it
I never
started
had any
because
before.
it was free.
Yes.
For anyone who watches us or knows us, Mackenzie's every day in a PLL something or another. And it makes me so happy. And then I'm like, God, I don't even know if she likes lacrosse. Do you like lacrosse?
I do now. I love the water dogs.
Oh, you're a water dog person because of PMT or just in general?
Yeah, because of that. And that was the free sweatshirt I got. So,
Well, shout out to little
RJ?
guy, RJ. Yeah.
yes, he sent it to us. So, shout out RJ.
All right, shout out RJ for the free merch and turning Mackenzie into a fan, one sweatshirt and hat at a time. Just kidding. I'm on the board. We are dire hardcore lacrosse fans over here. Anyways, all right, so here's what we have going on for today's episode. We have Robbie Fox joining us. Robbie Fox and I talk about being in London. We talk about the UFC. We talk about the moment Dave Portnoy is having with the Premier League. We also have Paul Bissonnette on. We talk about the launch of Not a Big Deal, which is our partnership with Labbatt. We love the people at Labbatt. We're excited about the beer category. We have Robbie Fox on talking about UFC, being in London with Dave, and what he sees happening with Meatball Molly and Patty the Batty, who are two new characters in our orbit. We go through Q&A, and then that's really about it, right, Mackenzie? Do we do anything else?
Nope, that's it.
That's probably enough. All right. Let's talk about Truebill real quick. Truebill is a new app that helps you save money by showing you a snapshot of your finances. Terrible. They can help you lower your bills, and best yet, they can help you cancel unwanted subscriptions. So when you think about all the money that you're spending on shit you don't need, Truebill can help you get that all together, put it in one place, and say, ooh, I actually do want to be paying for that because I get value out of it. It enriches my life. It's necessary for what I want to do. Or you can say that subscription is an utter waste of money. Like I was watching Uncharted last night. Have you seen Uncharted? It's like a very poorly acted new Indiana Jones featuring Mark Wahlberg and some kid. But anyways, I was going through it and I hit the wrong button at some point. And then I was like, fuck, where did I watch this thing? And then I went to Amazon Prime, and then I went to Disney, and then I went to Hulu, and then I went to Peacock. And then I went to on demand on cable, and I was like, oh my God. I was just thinking as I'm like trying to find the end of this fucking movie. I'm like, how many subscriptions am I paying for on a monthly basis? That's like a good conversation for Rich Greenfeld. But if you want to have a budget, track your goals, evaluate where you're spending money, to cancel the things you don't want to be spending money on, you can get Truebill. On average, people save up to $720 a year on Truebill. That is truebill.com/token. It could save you thousands of dollars per year. Start canceling today at truebill.com/token. That's truebill.com/token. So before we get into it, let's just do a quick boardroom, what's going on around here. So obviously Dave and Robbie were in London last week with Spider and Austin. That was pretty awesome. Robbie will talk about that in a minute. I had like this ticklish moment where seeing Dave with the picture with the Tottenham guys, I had this moment, same when Dave kind of hit on pizza and then he hit with the TikTokers, and now I'm like, oh my God, there goes that man. He's going to be big with the Premier League crew. So I was excited to see that. There was a ton of buzz in the office. Chief like bops into my office yesterday and is like, hey, we really need to sponsor. He's a fan of some real random team. Do you know this, Mackenzie? The Larkspurs or something?
Yeah, he tweets about it a lot.
Which is smart. I like Chief's approach. So shout out to Chief, who actually listens to this. So shout out Chief. Took a bunch of initiative, came in this week when he was in New York to tell me everything he's doing, which I appreciated. But then I was like, why the fuck would we sponsor that team? You give them so much free advertising. That'd be like me going to Dana White and being like, hey, Dana, don't you want to pay me for us to promote UFC? And he would be like, girl, you just blew our numbers out of the water for free, so why would I pay you? So shout out UFC, shout out us for not sponsoring the Larkspurs or whatever it is. Other things that are happening here, we are in the middle of mid-year reviews, so that's exciting. For anybody at Barstool listening to this, we have eliminated the self-evaluation, which I think is a good thing. So our business reviews, our mid-year reviews, typically only apply to business people. That's why I really liked Chief showing up, because Chief's like, hey, I'm just going to volunteer myself for a quick check-in, which I really did appreciate. I'm excited about mid-year reviews. I'm most excited, I think, about doing 360s. I think it's a really awesome time for people to get feedback from people who work for them, people who work above them, people who work next to them. One of the things we've spent, I don't know, 8 months on, if not more at this point, is like breaking down a lot of the silos that we had at the beginning of the year or with some of our former management team. And that hasn't been easy, to be honest with you. It's, required people to take a leap of faith. It's required us to invest in the business in ways that we hadn't, which ultimately I think is a good thing. It's required people to work differently with one another. And one of the things that sometimes I get aggravated by, I've been aggravated this week, is that, people kind of fall back into silo mentality, and it frustrates me. Like, I feel like sometimes we're sliding, you take one step forward and 2 steps back. So the big thing I'm looking for in our review cycle is to, one, just get a pulse on the business. We spent this week doing a deep dive on our sales business, our advertising business. So interestingly enough, obviously they're way, way, way bigger than we are, but Twitter's in the dumpster in terms of their ad business. Everyone is fleeing Twitter. Everyone who works at Twitter is fleeing Twitter. The Musk effect is real. I think he punctured a hole in the balloon, and it's creating a lot of doubt and a lot of uncertainty, certainly for Twitter employees, but also for Twitter advertisers. Meta signaled that they're seeing a softness in the ad market. We're obviously a way, way, way smaller business, but what's exciting about what we're seeing is that there's just a huge amount of opportunity, and almost the problem, not almost the problem is we're not going far and wide enough to capture it. So I was really excited about all of our sales reviews. Great to see the people who are crushing it, good to have a plan on the people who aren't. Really important to get visibility into how our people think. One of the biggest things that I keep thinking about now is, I think sometimes what's holding people back, I would say, in their groups or us as a company, is really, what is the vision? So, we're in a situation right now, let's take wholesale. We had a wholesale business review this morning, which I basically tore into. Now, our wholesale team has crushed it. They've done an awesome job. PGA Superstore is amazing. We've got this guy, Quinn, who runs it, who's electric. He has absolutely crushed, murdered, destroyed, won the sporting good category. We have not crushed, murdered, won, succeeded any other category. So you see the impact that somebody like Quinn can have, because 1, he has a vision, 2, he's able to articulate his vision for that category, and 3, he's been able to execute on it. And I think one of the things that we have to get better at is thinking about overall, what's the vision? How are we articulating that to all of our stakeholders? And how are we executing, and how are we checking ourselves on if we're executing that plan or not? So, one of the interesting things in the sales meetings and even the wholesale meeting today was, hey, Andrew Meeks, he runs our Midwest territory. He's awesome. How are we going to super serve Chevy? How are we super serving Cross Country Mortgage? What's your vision for how we give white glove everything to those type of accounts? What's your vision for how you grow a smaller account and you make it into a bigger one? And what's your vision for how you go fishing and bring in a bunch of minnows? So he had great answers for that. It was an awesome conversation. We had that all across our sales business, which was great. I think the biggest thing, obviously, that we want from our salespeople and anyone running a business where people do business with other people is, the more you can get in front of people, the better. So small heads up to the Barstool salespeople, we're doing a expense report audit. So in our old life, when Wajiha was here, we didn't like spending. Wajiha didn't like spending, which, God bless her as a CFO. That was definitely her prerogative and probably a smart thing. These days we want revenue. So we're like, hey, have you gone out? Have you called on a customer? Did you take somebody out to lunch? Like, are you going to breakfast? Are you doing drinks? What do you like to do? Do people like to go to baseball games? Shout out again to the Midwest team where they brought a bunch of people to the Classic. Are we bringing people to Chiclets Cup? Are we doing stuff like that? So that's what's happening in our sales business. And then in our commerce business, we're really thinking about, and I feel like I'm pushing for, taking a quick step back. So one thing I'm pushing for is for us to think differently about our business. Sometimes we look at our business on, hey, X part, X brand, X strategy, X idea is going to account for Y percentage of our total revenue. Hey, we think wholesale can account for as much as 20% of our total number. And I'm like, fuck the total number. Tell me how big wholesale can be. Do we need wholesale salespeople? Do we need wholesale account managers? Do we need a wholesale incentive plan? And the answer is that we need all of those things and more. But I think one of the biggest things, if you're in a company where you're going through a mid-year review, or you're starting to think about what the end or what the back half of 2022 looks like, or what 2023 might look like, you have an opportunity and a moment in time where it's very logical to say, what is my vision? How big do I think this thing can be? And how, articulate that to somebody else, bring people along for the ride, and then lay out a plan to execute it, do it, and then get bonused or paid for it. Like, that's kind of the name of the game. And sometimes I think people lose sight of that. Like I came home from work yesterday and I was like, oh my God, like people are up my ass all day long. And everybody comes in just wanting something. Like, I want more money. I want a raise. I want a bonus. I want another hire. I need a this. I need a that. And it's like, God, I would be so much more inclined to say yes to these things if I understood the vision that it mapped to, even if it's a person's vision or a personality's vision, or if I understood like how this is delivering the results or amplifying or exceeding the results that we said we would execute against. So that's kind of my ramble on mid-year reviews. Long story short, I'm excited about it. One thing I'm also really thinking about is we've never had incentives or bonuses, or we've never made working together and collaborating material. Like, we've never made it, if you don't partner with another team here, that has an impact on what your bonus is, or that has an impact on how you're ranked in your team, or how you're rewarded at the end of the quarter or at the end of the year. And I think that's something that we have to change, because otherwise I'm just shouting into the wind that people should work more closely together. But unless we create shared goals, or unless we create incentives that drive that behavior, the behavior is never going to happen. So that's probably the statement of the obvious, but that's the mid-year review update. Okay, so that's mid-year reviews inside of Barstool. Other things I'm fascinated by, I don't know if anyone is reading about or trying to buy tickets for Springsteen. Have you been reading about this, Mackenzie? Do you even know who Bruce Springsteen is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, that's good.
I was actually just talking to my mom because he's coming to like near my hometown, and we were looking at the tickets for like Albany, and it's like thousands of dollars.
Well, do you know why?
No.
Okay, so there's a great New York Times article on this. I think there's a Variety article on it. So Ticketmaster has launched something called, I think it's called Platinum Seat Program, or verified fan. The Ticketmaster has a system that if you sign up for, you can get early access to tickets. The big news and the big controversy with Springsteen is that it has dynamic pricing. So your mom, Mackenzie, what's your mom's name, Mackenzie?
Mary.
Okay, so Mary's like, I gotta see Bruce. I love Bruce. I don't care if we pay our mortgage this month. Like, I gotta see Bruce. So she enrolls in the program in Ticketmaster. She goes to buy tickets for the Albany show, and she's like, fuck, every other mom, dad, grandpa, old person, 40 plus individual in the greater Albany area is also trying to get tickets to Springsteen, and the price is just going up and up and up and up and up. So it used to be that scalpers took a bunch of tickets off everybody's hands and then charged exorbitant prices in a secondary market. What's happening now is that it's happening directly through the artist. So in this case, Springsteen is benefiting because he's getting the upside between the face value of the ticket and what people are willing to pay for it. So kind of crazy. I love it because the money goes to the artist. People are bitching about it right and left, which is understandable. Like, everything is a business now, you know what I mean? In some way, like, everything is a business. And yeah, it sucks. Like, if you don't make a whole lot of money, you're a cop in Albany, you cannot afford $4,000 for a great ticket to Springsteen. I guess Springsteen also released more tickets so that more could be sold at more affordable prices. But it also just shows that everybody's getting smart on understanding attention and understanding demand and capturing the upside. And the upside isn't going to a secondary market. It's not really going to a middleman, although the Ticketmaster fees are proportionate. So when the ticket's $5,000, their fee is $600, which is kind of exorbitant and insane. But it's just kind of interesting what's happening. What do you think?
No, I just thought it was crazy that, like, even it's not Madison Square Garden, it's like Albany, New York, and they were still thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's crazy. So
but
did
I
she
do
get
think
them?
it's good. It goes. No, she didn't get them yet. She had to like sleep on it. So maybe she'll buy them eventually.
Somebody had a great tweet that was, I guess it was about a Paul McCartney show. And they were basically like, I paid Paul McCartney's mortgage, or I paid a mortgage payment to Paul McCartney. And was it worth it? Yes, it was worth it. So I guess it's all what you value, but I think the great thing is that the money is going to artists, or hopefully going to the artist, and the artist is helping set the price, versus it going to a secondary ticket market. But I also think it's just crazy, like, how far out of control does this get, how far out of control does this ratchet? So reading about that, I think that's interesting. Obviously, there's a lot going on for the WWE, which I can't really talk about. I know I'm getting kind of hammered on Twitter about that. We're in the middle of an investigation. It's not great. It's been an uncomfortable couple of months. There's a lot to get through. So when it's appropriate to talk about that, I certainly will, but now is not that time. Other things happening around here. What else is happening around here? Coley. So kind of a sad couple conversations with Coley. Talked to Coley. So I talked to Coley, I guess maybe Sunday, and Coley's like, we don't want to have this conversation. Of course, I had this conversation where, like, his phone drops, my phone drops, his phone drops. It's like, sucks. You're like, the somebody quitting on you conversation and bad cell service is the worst. So he was on Dave's show yesterday and talked about, why he's leaving. I think it's a bummer. I love Coley. Look, what I would say about Coley is I think he's just brilliant. I think he's so smart. I think he's so creative. I think he loved Barstool early and hard, and at a time where it wasn't in vogue to do so. And I can remember bringing Coley to my first big meeting with MLB, and like sitting Coley in like a sweatsuit. Coley, for anybody who doesn't know Coley's like 6'6", big guy. His teeth are all over the place. He usually has a dip in his mouth. Like, he's got like a designer backpack and a dirty t-shirt. Like, he's just really the best package ever. And I can remember trotting into MLB with Coley and Gaz, and I just was so happy. I just was like, I love these characters. I love these guys so much. And I have a soft spot for Coley. I remember when his dad died, when he had a baby, when he got married, when his second baby arrived. But I also understand, I think there's something that happens here where you just get really burnt out and fried. I don't think from the outside, I think it's very hard to stay on the pulse and to sustain the frenetic, Coley was in social and the blog. So the blog is like the pulse of what people are talking about right now. Having to be on like that for years, every night, every weekend, every moment that something happens, that pressure cooker is tough. I think it's hard at work, whether you work at Barstool or anywhere, to see your friends leave and people that you love and that you're close to. I also think, what I like about the Coley, what Coley is doing, and obviously there's stuff we've got to figure out with Coley, but I'd rather somebody leave than just like be stagnant. And I feel like Coley's been stagnant for a while. Like, he knows it, we know it, everybody else knows it too. And it's like, instead of just sitting there in stagnation, doing something about it and trying to get that spark back and feel a sense of fulfillment back is really important. So that's kind of the Coley news. So we'll kick it right now to Robbie, and let's get Robbie's take on London and the UFC. And I'm in particular very interested in this Molly. I like this Molly. Let's go to Robbie. Talk a little bit about why London was so great, and Patty and Molly. And
it really was. We said, like, right before we started recording, it was like we wrote it, like, as a Barstool thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we wanted out of Molly.
Explain, take a step back in terms of just set the stage of what happened.
So
why were you there?
Yeah, we signed Patty and Molly a little under a year ago, I think, in November-ish we
For
signed
the sports
them.
book.
Yeah, to promote the sports book. They have embraced Barstool
they're
so
amazing.
much since then.
Those
And then we
two.
signed Molly right afterwards, too, in March.
We signed Patty, and then we were like, gotta have
We
Molly.
were like, this is a package deal.
Gotta have
And then
Molly.
Dave, I think, tweeted during her last fight, if she wins, we'll sign her. She winds up getting the greatest spinning elbow knockout we've ever
Absolutely,
seen.
yep.
So he's like,
Which we
welcome
should
to
play.
Barstool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're
She
in.
was like the Trent hire. Do you remember when
Yes,
we hired Trent
when he
because of the
got
Iowa
the kick,
Michigan
yeah.
State or Michigan game, the Iowa Michigan
that
game?
like brought him to New York
Yeah,
or whatever.
and I would remember watching Twitter and being like, "Fuck, I guess we didn't have much money then for Barstool," and I was like, "Oh, like where we really sweated every hire." And I remember on a Saturday being on Twitter watching the bet go back and forth between Trent and Dave about the Iowa Michigan game, and I was like, I guess we're hiring Trent. But go ahead, okay.
But yeah, so this time we went out to support both of them. Last time it was like just Patty, and then it became a Molly thing. This time was me, Dave, Spider, and Austin. Way more fun with a group than going alone. And we did a bunch of like pizza reviews that week. Dave did one with Harry Kane, like
That was
worldwide
amazing.
superstar.
Were you there?
I was there for it. Me and Harry Kane's wife were talking. Turns out they were just in Jersey City, like a mile away from where me and Zal
I
live.
heard that he's not the biggest Barstool fan, but the rest
Really?
of them are.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
he didn't seem anti-Barstool by any means, but the other ones put him onto it.
That's awesome.
Like the
and
other
they drove
two in
like
the
an
review.
hour to
yeah,
come see
right
you
after
guys.
practice too. And they were
That's
like
awesome.
so into the pizza reviews.
It's Tottenham, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they play for Tottenham.
The fight night itself was perfect. Molly goes out, amazing walkout.
Yeah.
And it was like a bummer of a fight night before that because there was like 9 fights and only one of them got a finish. It was like a lot of just boring decisions, not a lot of Brits winning like last time. She comes out,
she was
lays in a
electric.
crazy performance, first round knockout, lands another spinning elbow, jumps into Dave's
Oh, that
arms.
was amazing.
Like,
Yeah.
he walked
And
her out and everything.
The UFC was very embracing of you guys.
Could not have embraced Barstool.
Yeah.
They were like every 2 seconds they were like, "What else can we do for you?" It was so cool. And then Patty goes out and gets his win, gives like the most powerful, emotional
Yeah, he was
post-fight
so
speech.
great. Yeah.
Had everyone crying.
Yeah.
They play "You'll Never Walk Alone" in the arena. And then we went backstage, and Molly, she goes from sober to shit-faced like that.
Oh, really?
Like she
can't hold her liquor?
No, she can hold it. She just drinks so much so quickly.
You know who
that
she reminds me of? Do you
it's
know my
like-
friend Kelly Babstock? Babs?
Yeah,
The
yeah, hockey player.
girl? Yeah. Oh, Jesus. She can go from zero to trashed in like a... You're just like,
She was like
what happened
trashed by the time Patty was fighting.
Yeah.
So it was like she gets back there.
She
and-
jumps out of Dave's arms and is trashed.
Yes. So she gave me in our lobby the leg kick, famously.
Yeah.
I'm Robbie Fox. This is Meatball Molly, and this is Spittin' Back.
Was that flat?
She was saying all week, "You got to give me one."
Did you
so
get-
her
Did it when
coach
she's trashed?
went backstage and gave her a leg kick.
No, it's a shin. That's shit, me muscle.
Hello. I don't even know how to throw it.
Oh, you're kicking.
Give me one that, Goldie. You're a fucking bitch.
Then I woke up to a text from her the next day, and she said, "Lad, did I dream this or did I let you kick me? Woke up, my leg hurts. I don't remember her kicking me in the fight." And I was like, "Nope." I sent her the
was
video.
me.
I was like, "That was in fact me."
Oh, that's good,
Yeah.
Robbie Fox.
They're honestly like the best. I think they're so good for the brand. Like they embrace Barstool. They are constantly wanting to do more. They're like,
we
what
should
else
be
can we
doing
do?
so much more with them.
Yeah, we should be.
I
because
also was so
they love it.
proud for Dave. I had this like
Molly was like crying
giddy
like to
for
him
Dave.
afterwards, like, you changed my life.
I was
Like,
giddy for Dave.
Yeah.
I was giddy for Dave when Dave saw the Tottenham players. Like I was texting him and he's like, oh my God.
Dana was texting
they're
Dave
just
during
like
the
hockey guys.
fights.
I'm sure
Yeah,
Dana
he was like,
"Thank you."
he was like, how amazing is this? Like, I knew you would love the experience, like all caps.
Oh,
like,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
he was
so
fired
cool.
up. I'm talking to
You
him later too,
Yeah,
so
no, you
watch that
should.
interview. Yeah.
Okay, what else is going on in your world?
My mom's basement, treading along.
Yeah.
Subscribe on YouTube and whatnot. Just got back from London. That was awesome. Pup Punk on Friday, Atlantic City.
Oh, this is the big concert weekend.
We got Atlantic City this weekend, Gramercy Theater next weekend, New York City.
Are you excited? What's
Very
the,
excited.
What's the set list?
Maybe we're throwing on a little Atlantic City in Atlantic City.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that breaking news?
Kind of. We teased it, but yeah,
Okay.
that'll be on the set list.
Oh, I love that. Are you
It's gonna
fired
be
up?
fun. So fired up.
It's so surreal.
Yeah,
I mean, it's fucked up.
it is. And then in October, obviously, Ocean's Calling,
that's
which I
gonna
think
be
is sold
amazing.
out already.
Are these two sold out?
No, not yet. So you can still get tickets.
Where's your dream venue to play Pup Punk?
I mean, like Madison Square Garden. Can we make that happen?
I mean, sure. It's whether or not people will go. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, great. Thanks, Robbie Fox.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll see you later.
See ya.
All right, let's talk about hair loss for women. Hair loss sucks for everybody. I actually feel bad for men about hair loss. It stinks to lose your hair. Like you see like the guys balding and there's only the bit in the back and there's not at the front. Women suffer from hair loss too, obviously. They're like their foreheads get bigger, which I have a large forehead, which sucks, but their foreheads get bigger, their hair thins, and it just makes you feel old, and I think it makes you feel unattractive. All of that said, how does Cortina Health help you with your hair loss? So if you are a woman, Cortina is an on-demand teledermatology solution. They can prescribe medicine, and they can help you diagnose your condition. They provide custom blended prescription treatments, especially for you, using only clinically proven ingredients in their formulas. With Cortina, you will receive an evaluation from a U.S. board-certified dermatologist, think Dr. Marshbein, within just 24 hours. So you basically go on to Cortina Health, you're like, my hair's falling out everywhere, I've got bald patches here, I feel like my hair's receding, womp, womp, womp. They come back to you, they help diagnose your situation, and they create a prescription that is tailored to you, and then you get that within days. Not only is Cortina convenient, it's also extremely affordable. Your personalized prescription, the doctor's visit, and unlimited follow-ups is just $39.99 a month. Not bad. Find out why over 100,000 people have been treated by Cortina's board-certified dermatologists at getcortina.com and use code CEO to receive your first shipment free. All right, so before we get into Q&A, let's talk to Paul Bissonnette. So last week at the Chiclets Cup, so Chiclets Cup is a street hockey event created by Mike Grinnell, so shout out Grinnelli. Street hockey event, we had one in Vegas, this one is in Buffalo. We had 800 players, so 800 people playing street hockey, all different teams, ton of Pink Whitney there in a hockey town like Buffalo is. I was so excited for Chiclets Cup on a couple levels. One, it's just like always great to have biz and wit with hockey fans. There's nothing better. Two is I was so excited that like a young person here took initiative like Grinelli to be like, hey, we should be doing street hockey. Let's make tournaments. Awesome. Three is that Lisa Litvak has her hair on fire. Like that woman is, I never know where she is. She always has this very sarcastic, wry smile about it, which I just delight in. Like, you know, she's always like 20% pissed off, maybe up to 40% pissed off. But the best thing is she sent her team to do Chiclets Cup because the Classic is running around the country. We've got all sorts of other tours in the works, and they crushed it. So shout out to Justin and Taylor Ray. They did an awesome job. They truly crushed this event. Everybody has mentioned how great it was. The fans, the talent, partners, you name it. And then also just a huge thank you to Labbatt. Long story short, when we were there, we announced Not a Big Deal Brewing. So we have a brewing partnership with Labbatt. We talked to a lot of different companies. We've been talking about having a beer for Chiclets for almost 2 years now. We thought about doing other vodka products. We thought about doing all sorts of different things and really landed on a beer because, as Biz puts really well, hockey guys drink beer. So we announced our partnership with Labbatt. We announced the creation of our Amber Ale, and we announced that we'll be bringing the product to market in October. And Biz comes on to just talk a little bit about that. Okay, so Biz, we are talking about Not a Big Deal, which is your beer. You guys already crushed the vodka category. Now you're going to go after the malt beverages. Talk a little bit about how you created it, what it looks like, why you love it, working with Labbatt. Like, give us the whole backstory.
Well, yeah, I mean, we created it, all of us. So many hands on deck. And before we get into the beer, we just got done with the Chiclets Cup in Buffalo. Erika, I'm so grateful for Barstool and the entire staff and the entire team that helped us put that together. That was such an incredible show, along with the Hockey Fest people.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And obviously one of the main reasons you had me on for this, if not the main reason, was to talk about the beer. And we thought, what better way to launch it in Buffalo, where Labbatt is. And I guess I'll start with Labbatt too. Like, what an incredible partnership. You know, a few years ago, dating back to pretty much around when the start of the pandemic happened, you know, we were struggling to even get a beer sponsor for the podcast. And I'm a beer drinker. Hockey fans are beer drinkers through and through. Obviously, with the success of the vodka, and you know how Witt originally, you know, talked about what he liked to drink with his vodka on the golf course and pink lemonade, that took on a mind of its own. So we just learned a lot, and I think that a lot of people were barking for the blue Bissonnette because we'd mentioned it as a joke in the commercial, but you know, it just didn't make sense. You know, it was, what do we do? Another seltzer? Everybody's doing seltzers, and nobody's going to have any more success than what High Noon has had in the seltzer industry. And also, as I just mentioned, the beer category is something that we felt that has been strongly neglected. Because everybody thinks people are moving away from it. Also, I think that the popularity maybe in the beer space had been all the IPAs recently, but I'm not the biggest IPA guy. I can have a couple of them, and then, you know, it's pretty.
Then you've had like a loaf of bread, and you're like, you're like, I need something in I think they call it sessionable. Like, you're like, I need to crush 15 of these in a session, not one in 5 sessions.
And listen, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm a bit of a binge drinker in the sense of when I'm sitting down watching a hockey game, or if I'm, you know, out by the pool, I want to drink 12 beers.
Yeah, no one has ever called you a man of restraint.
No, I might have had 300 of them over the Chiclets Cup. So
it looked like it.
So when we found out Labbatt was actually interested and wanted to jump on a call and would consider doing this joint venture and creating this brewing company. And when I say brewing company, we just didn't want to stop at one beer. What we wanted to do is create an original, which we did. It's called the Original Golden Ale, but we wanted to have this like throwback style logo that it's almost like it had been created like in the past.
Yeah, right? Like when beer cans were white, it was like, remember like your dad drinking, what did my dad drink? It was a yellowish can. I think it was Coors, like yellowish, like the yellow bad teeth color. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just
the
feels
color
so...
the color of my beer bottle teeth. Exactly.
Yeah.
Not the fake white ones I have that haven't been knocked out.
Yeah, your original teeth. Yeah. Keep going. You hit the nail on the head. And like, we wanted this like original style logo that wasn't all these like dragons or whatever's popping off the can, all these crazy colors. At least to start, we wanted the nostalgia. And when we were brainstorming about thinking about a name of it, it just went back to what had been behind me. You know, we on the podcast, we say all the time, not a big deal, not a big deal. You know, we kept saying it. So we thought, well, why not Big Deal Brewing? Because this is a big deal, and the nostalgia of what's behind me. But not only will our fans recognize the Big Deal banner because it's behind me, but it's also a name that you don't have to listen to the podcast to understand it. And going back to when you said, you know, you created the beer, it's a Spittin Chiclets beer. It's not a Paul Bissonnette beer. Will
helped out big time with it. There's so many people at Barstool who helped create this. Joe, who's the graphic design. I think we went back and forth like 16, 17 times on how to create the logo. And we did just as much due diligence and work on creating the beer itself.
Yep.
I traveled to Buffalo 3 times, and we didn't quite have it right. And finally the brewmaster was able to get it exactly where we thought that we needed it. And he crushed it. And that's why I'm so grateful for Labbatt as well, because, when you're dealing with a big partner, sometimes they like to take a lot of the creative control, or at least some of it. That was not the case. Just the way that Pink Whitney and Gallo works hand in hand with us, Labbatt did the exact same thing. And we think we've created a masterpiece. I'm so excited for everybody to try it. And just circling back, Erika, I'm very grateful for Barstool and your entire staff, not only just on the beer, but everything they've done for us as a brand.
Yeah, no, we love Chiclets, and you guys are awesome. And look, what I love about it is I think it feels, I hate the word authentic, but it feels so you. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels Canadian. It feels like it has a little bit of an accent. It feels like it could be slightly idiotic at times. Like, it's not a video game dressed as a beer or a tattooed up logo that looks cool on Instagram. Like, I actually think the simpleness of it is, and just like the good Canadianness of it, which is what I feel like it just feels like to me. But I also feel, I think we got so much smarter about, I was thinking when you were saying that we couldn't get a beer advertiser, which to me is like one of the most fucked up things ever. Like, we still struggle with the beer category in general. Now, granted, the beer category is in the toilet, but I also think that what was so awesome about this is we cut our teeth on the Gallo partnership. Pink Whitney's been a runaway success. We love it. We've learned a lot. I think we've done an incredible thing. The serendipity, you have Steph Curry at a golf event chugging Pink Whitney. Like, it's amazing. It's only Barstool, only Chiclets could make that happen. But I also I think the Labbatt folks were really along for the ride, like in a really genuine, earnest way. Like, I love their CEO. He's so excited about this. This is his big bet. And I honestly think that we can buck the trend on anything, including beer. And to your point, hockey guys and hockey girls love beer. And, what better way to get one than through us?
I guess the trend is that the younger generation are drinking more seltzers and more hard liquor or whatever it may be. But you can't classify or put hockey fans inside that bubble. Hockey fans like beer. When they go to the rink to a game, they're drinking beers. They got stacks and stacks of them underneath their seat, because I think past the second period intermission, they no longer serve, right? They start cutting them off, so they stack them up. I think Big Cat jokes around about it all the time, but you said it. Like, we've learned a lot from a branding perspective. How to feed our fans through the Pink Whitney experiment. And going back to the fact that we couldn't find a beer sponsor, I think part of it had to do with budgets getting cut because of the COVID situation, and maybe just them not knowing where to allocate money properly. And for me, like, I love doing original content and original ideas, including commercials and whatnot. So not only along with creating the beer, I think that we're going to also have creative control on doing other things to advertise for, where people want that. People want to see different, and they want to see people being genuine and maybe pushing the boundaries on as far as humor is concerned. So we're not just going to stop at creating beers. We're going to create entertainment. We're going to create parties. We're going to create memories. And going back also to the logo, it has that original logo that's always going to pop out on the shelves, because, it's just like Big Deal Brewing. It's very simple. It's classy. You could, had a couple big deals last night, a couple BDs, however you want to reference it. But we can always work with the color schemes and the can around that signature logo.
Yeah.
As we proceed to launch more and more beers. Now, I'm not going to divulge which beer we're coming out with next, but we've already started tasting it and working on the next one. And that's what's amazing about this venture, is we're going to continue to create, and even if the other beers are limited runs and we kind of go all over the place and try these different things, that's what's going to be fun about it. But we're always going to be able to go back to the original golden ale, which, as I mentioned, the brewmaster, he knocked it out of the park. I appreciate their patience because I can be a little bit picky sometimes, but along with me and your staff and other people at Barstool involved who were tasting it along the way, we all tended to agree and brought it to a direction and finally got it to a place where we believe people are going to absolutely love it. And even the people at the launch party, I talked about that earlier about how it would just fit that we ended up doing it in Buffalo.
Yeah, it
for
was
Chiclets
awesome.
Cup. We had 800 people at the draft room at the Labbatt factory, and we had all these mugs printed out with Big Deal Brewing on them. And I unfortunately the mic blew out. Like the mic.
I heard this. You have a force field on mics.
I know. I think it's my.
I was like, oh my God, Ryan Whitney is gonna fucking kill me. Like,
no,
I
he
had
was like,
Chicago
all right, I've
flashbacks.
seen enough, and he walked off and went and grabbed a beer, and that was enough for him. But because of the amazing social media staff, if you saw it launched online,
Yeah, you wouldn't notice.
You would have never had an idea. And that's
Yeah.
what, once again, going back to Barstool, they covered every base. We had a good chuckle of the people in attendance, but right after that, I ended up going up behind the bar and I poured beer for about 2.5 hours
Yeah,
for
it's
all
awesome.
the fans. And everybody kept coming back for more. Everybody truly enjoyed it. I think a few people tried to rib me that they didn't, but they were the ones who
They
were
really
coming back
did.
for more.
Yeah,
fucking
that's
drinks.
right. That
But,
was 20 beers later.
That was 20 beers later where they had the balls to actually chirp me about it. But I know I've been long-winded, Erika, but
Yeah.
it was an extremely successful launch. I'm so grateful that Labbatt came on board, and I'm so excited to see what's next for this brand.
Yeah, I'm psyched about it. I think the reason that beer companies haven't worked with us is, look, we have a great partnership with Coors. We obviously have a good partnership with Boston Beer. We love the Truly folks. We think they're an awesome operation. I love this category in general. It's a wheelhouse category. But I also think this is, like, I can remember talking to Anheuser-Busch, and they basically view us as a competitor, right? For exactly this reason. And then when you look at the alcohol category and you look at the most interesting products and or launches, it's High Noon and Dave, it's Pink Whitney and you guys, and now it will be not a big deal. So I love what we're doing. I think we're disrupting this space and showing the power of brand in a way that's incredible. Okay, Biz, did you see Mike Grinnell's interview on the local Buffalo ABC or NBC station?
I have not seen it yet. He was another guy whose tires I wanted to pump because he had a lot of say and help that went on with
Yeah,
his
he
beer
did
as
a
well.
great job.
And I'll tell you what, the growth that kid has shown over the last like couple of years alone, like he's Chiclets Cup. Like, I mean, all the ball hockey and roller hockey was his idea.
Yeah.
Obviously it takes an army to execute, but he's been on all the calls and helped carve
Yep.
out this little, we're doing our own festivals now. I don't even view it as just a ball hockey and roller hockey event. It's a full-on festival. We had Dante, who's amazing on the DJ. He's doing a lot of Barstool events and has in the
Yep.
past. We had Boss and Levi show up. We had games. We had, I think, 1,000 people showed up who weren't even involved with the tournament. So we had about 2,000 people there total. So he's crushed it. But no, I did not see his.
Okay, I'm
live
going to
hit.
send it to you. It's charming. We'll just put it that way. It's charming.
Did he drop any F-bombs on local radio
No,
or
he
local
gave-
TV? Excuse me.
He gave no, he didn't drop any F-bombs. He had his like squirrely little Grinelli look, like a dirty hockey hair and the hat.
Oh yeah.
And like the, oh my God, it was so cute. He gave you a big shout out. He dogged you a little bit.
Oh, I love it.
So I'll
can
send that
take
to you.
He told me he was doing a local TV hit, but I love that. I love his confidence is growing day
It
by day.
has.
And it's well earned, man, because he's put himself out there and he's also worked his bag off. So I'm just grateful for the whole team, and we're continuing to expand. We just hired a new videographer, Fish. Of course, Sean Apuzzo has been involved for a little bit here, who's been helping out
Yep.
drastically and just relieved a lot of pressure from Grinnell in certain areas,
Yep.
so he's able to expand in others. And the other guys speak for themselves. Pasha, we got plenty of hands on deck.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, Biz, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative.
Big Deal Brewing. Can't wait for everybody. It launches in October in select locations. I believe Boston and Massachusetts will be one of the states that originally carries it. By March time, and hopefully, of course, in Ontario as well to start. And then I'm assuming by March it'll be in about 25 states. and available at a lot of easy retailers that people are familiar with. So that's another reason why Labbatt has helped out so much as well. It's because of the distribution, and we're pumped to be partnered with them. And let's take this venture to the moon, Erika.
All right, let's take a quick break and talk about Upside. I like the brand Upside. I bet that was hard to trademark. What does Upside do? It allows you to earn cash back on your everyday purchases like gas, grocery, and restaurant purchases. I've been spending too much money at restaurants and too much money on groceries, which is essentially saying I eat too much. But what Upside can do is to help me save money when I'm eating too much. So who doesn't love that? How do you do it? You download the Upside app. You use my promo code, which is TOKEN, and you get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. So you spend $10 and you get $5 back. Not a bad discount. Next, what you can do is claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You can check in at the business. You can pay as usual with a credit card or debit card, and you get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. How awesome is that? So basically, you go on the app, you check in at the business, you pay like you would normally do, and then you get cash back on all of your purchases. If you download the free Upside app and use promo code TOKEN, you can get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code TOKEN. So now let's do Q&A. First question. I just started my first full-time job out of college about a month ago, and I absolutely hate it. That sucks. It's a rotational program, so it will change and be a lot better in 6 months or a year, but I'm not sure I can wait that long. Should I quit and start fresh someone else? If so, do I talk about this job in interviews, or do I just simply tell them I'm a recent college grad? I'm fairly confident I can get a job with just my college resume. Ooh, okay. This oddly reminds me, I remember going to this job fair. My roommate Alyssa and I took my Volkswagen Golf in the middle of an ice storm from Colby and drove to Greenwich, Connecticut, where we stayed at a teammate's house, one of my field hockey lacrosse teammates' house. Lovely family. And the dad worked in New York City and agreed to take Alyssa and I on the train with him to go into New York City. It was like an exhilarating, terrifying, like anxiety-driven experience, like staying, basically stranger's house, to having to go to New York City with the dad, who in hindsight was probably like, what the fuck? Why do I have to bring these two college girls into town with me? 3, I can remember distinctly that everyone on, I guess you call it Metro North, was reading the paper. It was like you walked on the train and it was just like paper. But I remember going to this big conference room in some terrible hotel in Midtown. Didn't have a suit. My dad bought me a dress and a jacket to wear over it that was black, which I felt like was close enough to a suit. I remember there was this other girl there from Colby who had a clipboard, and she knew exactly where she wanted to work, and she did all this prep. Obviously, I didn't do any of that. But when I looked around, I was like, oh, it's all insurance companies. I do not want to work at an insurance company. I'll die if I work at an insurance company. So it sounds like I feel like that this person just took the insurance company job. So one is, I think the first thing is, why do you hate this job? Do you hate the company? Do you hate the brand? Do you hate the work? Do you hate the people? What do you hate about it? I'm sure if it's the insurance company that I was thinking where I was going to work, I was fairly sure I would hate all of it. Figure out what exactly you hate. I think the reason that's important is if you only hate things that are specific to the rotational role that you're in right now, then maybe you want to think about hanging on for the next 6 months or the year. If you hate most everything about this company, the line of work, the industry, whatever, then get the fuck out. So I would say in general, if you absolutely hate your role and you've been in it a month, I would opt out. I would get out. I'd go try something new. I don't think that there's any shame in saying what you tried and why you didn't like it. I would get very polished about that answer, but I wouldn't omit it. Basically, if anybody does a background check on you, they'll see that you worked there anyway, so I wouldn't hide that at all. But I think you really have to understand what it is you don't like and how much of it you don't like in order to be able to make the right choice about whether you should go or not. And then when it comes to finding your next job, I wouldn't hide it at all. I would say, hey, I took a job at, XYZ insurance company, and I learned so much in a month, and here's what I learned. And mostly what I learned is that this wasn't the right job for me for this, and this reason, and I'm looking for blah, blah, blah. So that's my 2 cents there. Second question. I'm looking to leave my company after working 1 full year here. I've gotten comfortable, but I'm wanting to transition to a totally new industry and job position. Any tips on how to totally switch gears? This is awesome. Who doesn't love switching gears? Good for you. I love that you don't want to be comfortable. I think that's such a great way to feel about your life. So here's what I would do in terms of switching gears. One is get your house in order. Make sure your resume is up to date. Think about the skills that you've developed at your current job or the job before that. Think about what you're really good at. Think about what you're interested in, and think about the companies and the industries that would be interesting to you. I would create a map or just some type of whiteboard or some type of notebook, or maybe it's a Google Doc, where you start to just free-form brainstorm the type of company and the type of jobs that would be interesting. Don't forget you're going to need to support yourself, so you got to think about salary as part of that. You've got to think about geography and where you would work as part of that. You've got to think about the size of the company. You've got to think about the industry. You've got to think about the seniority of the role or the type of role. But I would first make sure you've got everything ticked and tied from what you've done at your current job or your jobs before that. I would be sure to be articulate about the skills that you've developed that are totally transferable to a new industry or a new job. And then 3, I would just start to go crazy and think about what you could do. And once you have in mind of that huge brainstorm that you're doing, once you have in mind what is most interesting and compelling and viable for you, then start networking, start reaching out to people, start applying to jobs, start taking interviews, and hopefully you'll have so many choices. That's so exciting. All right, third question. Do you have any advice for someone transitioning from an executive level position at a startup to a corporate environment or position? Previous title is a little inflated because it was a startup. Going from a startup to a big company is like, I could talk about this for 10 years. It's like a mind fuck. It's a massive, massive, massive change. It's a huge emotional change. It's kind of a practical change in that your environment is different, right? There might be a cafeteria. You have to have a badge. You may sit in a cube. There's a certain way of doing things. Like, what I love about startups is it's kind of like smart people congregating together in weird places trying to make shit happen and fake it till you make it, and experimenting and failing and trying, and kind of the drama and the chaos and really just the spirit of adventure in that. When you get to a big company, most big companies aren't consumed by a spirit of adventure, right? They're governed by a set of rules, a culture, a way of doing things, a set practice. Really what I think you've got to do is you just have to put almost a different mask on, or you have to wear a different hat in entering a really corporate environment versus being in a startup environment. You're still going to find really smart people. You're still going to get to have great adventures and to build great things. But there's other things that go along with that, both good and bad, that will just make that experience really radically different. So the way I would get there, and obviously I'm thinking about this just in my life with Penn and Barstool's life with Penn and what our future looks like. I kind of think back to when I was bouncing around between corporate jobs and startup jobs, is when you get to a big company, there is a way of doing things. Startups have a unique way of doing things, and there's a huge amount of volatility, I would say, in startups, or a high degree of creativity, and there's a lot of nuance, and I would say every startup has a different culture. Corporations also have different cultures, but there are far more rules there's far more people, there's far more processes, there's far more protocols. So you got to get yourself in a headspace of being able to deal with that, not get irritated by it, not be pissed off when you encounter it, but really thinking through how are you going to step your way through that culture in a way that helps you succeed. I think there's a lot of really good things to be learned from corporate environments. You learn how to deal with multiple stakeholders. You learn how to present and be very articulate. You learn how to manage up and down and sideways all simultaneously. You learn how to break the rules and you learn how to make the rules. So I think there's really good things that can happen in that environment. But the biggest thing is you got to get yourself in the headspace of knowing you're going into that environment and wanting to learn as much as you possibly can from it and to play your part in not only just doing great work, but taking as much from it as you can without getting frustrated, without bemoaning the fact that you're not in a startup or wishing you were in a more chaotic environment. Take advantage of the benefits, take advantage of the cafeteria, take advantage of the good pay, take advantage of the people you'll have exposure to. And what my bet is you'll rock the corporate thing for a little bit and then you'll go back to a startup. So all of that's good. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Robbie Fox and Biz for joining us. You will see us back here next week. And that's it. Thank you.